Hey there Internet, Petey Twofinger here. Today I was going to do this is going to be kind of a longer, more chatty video. Yeah, if you're not used to my style of video, I would really highly suggest you go somewhere else. I really don't know what I'm talking about. Basically exaggerating and telling a lot of lies, which may have something to do with Class D amplifier technology, probably not. So this is a Class D amp board. I paid, it was $11.26 for this to have it delivered to my home. It's 50 by 2 and it has 35 volt capacitors. So here is the input. It came with this little shielded cable. It's a stereo amp board. There is two 10K pots to adjust the volume. And then there is the DC input, which this will be running off of 24 volts DC. Also, I probably run it off at 12 a few times. It won't be as loud, but in a pinch you can run it off 12. And then these are the speaker outputs. So it's pretty simple. You've got the power coming in. Here is your audio input. This would go to your iPod or whatever iDevice or Macintosh that you have. And then the speakers you would connect here. Probably going to put this in this. This is like a very expensive enclosure. I think I paid $2 for this. Probably $3 because it's black. Say it's a 25 by 2, I would use that handle. But if it's a 50 by 2, I would use use that like really heavy mother handle. This is a 15 by 2 that I put in this box. It's got like, power, LED, volume knob, there's a fuse. Here's your Walkman or iPod input, which is just a 3.5 mil. And then there's RCA inputs, 1/4 inch inputs, 1/4 inch outputs, and spring terminals. So you can run this on whatever speaker you want. And as you can see, I wasn't joking because there's a little tiny handle to represent that it's only 15 by 2. Class D technology is wonderful. This is relatively newer stuff. And it runs at 93% efficiency, which means your older amps are much closer to 60 or below. So that extra 40% of your power is getting converted into heat, which heat is bad. So for me, I have this family band and we do outdoor remote jams where we play in the woods. So the only way that's made possible is by the Class D amps, because I can run them off batteries and the batteries don't die. These are the batteries that we use to power our amps. Typically, each player will have one cell powering their amp, although like my wife plays the bass guitar, she runs two. So the bass is a little bit more, requires more power. So I've been kind of improving, I've been moving up and up. We got another set of speakers to run the drum machine. We were using a mixer and then having her amp run the drum machine and her bass guitar that she plays. And I was like, you know what, it probably would be even louder. I found another cabinet for cheap and threw it together where we have separate cabinet for our drum machine. So today I wanted to show you, this is it's like the amp that I've been using. I guess you could call it a rack mount style. Ideally what happened was I connected it improperly and we had a component fail. So today I replaced that. So basically how this works is there is a power switch, there's an LED. Here is a 3-band EQ. This section here is a digital display to give me a voltage readout on the internal batteries that power the 9-volt preamp. That's this EQ section. And then there's a master volume knob here. And that's tied into the preamp. And then this is like a rotary switch that came out of one of these data switch boxes. That rotary switch selects so I can test on this meter. I can test the two 9-volt batteries voltage, and I can also test the main power that's coming in, which would be the external two 12-volt batteries running. Actually, this is set up right now, it only runs a single, but I'm going to be putting a larger amp board in it to run it off of 24 volts. Just giving it double the power that it existingly has. So taking a look at the inside, in the back we have two power fuses. One is for the main power input, and the other is for the 9-volt auxiliary output. This has 9 volts out. Here is a 9-volt voltage regulator, so as the power comes in, you can turn with this switch here, turn the 9 volts on, and then that fires up this socket here. So if I wanted to run any pedals and power those off of this jack, I would just plug in my cable, go into my pedals, and run it off the amp's power supply, coming off of that main sealed lead acid batteries. So that's real nice. Here, these two modules here are the, that's the EQ. Those are bass guitar harnesses, so you could, if you, let's say you have like a cheesy bass and you wanted to make it active, you would buy this from eBay. They're 10 bucks, actually less, I think I paid 7, but typically around 10. And that gives you 3 knobs, bass, mid-range, and treble, and the 4th is a volume, and the 5th is like, you eliminate the 5th. That pot is a switch between your bridge and your neck pickup. So in this case, I just wanted to use the EQ, so I bought 2 of them, connected them to stereo pots, and then ran that in front of the amp. Actually, I think the way that this is like really a goofy setup. No, it is. It actually goes straight in. So here are the 2 battery compartments, the power, the separate 9-volt modules. This is my display. That's wired up here. That's an eBay, like a 99-cent automotive 12-volt display. It actually goes up to 30 volts is its maximum. So there's a mute switch here, and that just goes right to the amplifier board. Here's the amp board, the input, and then here the output goes back to here. It is wired with a pot right off of the input back here. So I can kind of, if I want to throttle it down a little bit, there's various points at which I can do that. There's a volume knob coming on the input before the EQ and after the EQ. So I kind of set like this as about like a master volume, keep this running about 3/4 of the way down. And then there's actually 2 switches on the board which determine the gain setting, and I have those set to medium. So I actually just changed that over to full blast. What had happened when we were setting up, I did not look, and I plugged the 24-volt power input into the output, into the 9-volt out. So that ran in here and popped the capacitor that's on my voltage regulator for pedal power. So we smelled something a little funny. I went and pulled the fuse out, and that fuse, the glass was cracked. The fuse was still good. The fuse didn't pop. I had a 1.5 amp fuse in there. But yeah, I don't know if you want to get a close-up of the wiring in here and just take a look at my video. I will say the most important thing that I must stress is that if you were going to consider this as an option for your guitar, I mean, the Class D amps sound fantastic. These boards here, the boards I've been using, like this is more of a generic board. This was only 10. The Shure board is like around 20, 25 bucks. Going up in wattage, the 100 watt, the 50x2 Shure board has a little fan on it, and those just sound fantastic. Some of these more generic ones might not have the exact audio file quality. What I heard is they all have different part numbers for the chip. The chip is the main thing, that's what's underneath the heatsink. I've heard the 3110, the 3110 boards sound the best. Those are 15x2. So that's a little bit less power, which means you could easily build yourself something like this, put it in something like this, and put it in a little enclosure, and then use like a laptop brick style power supply. Something with about 3 amps or up would work fantastic, like 19.5 volt. You know, you can find those a lot at resale for just $2 to $5 for that power supply. The larger ones, like the 100 watt, that runs off a 24 volt power supply, and you can find those for powering a TV. Something like a 6, 8 amp, and that's a lot of power. I mean, the problem would be building one of these for your home usage. certainly would be way more than you would need. Even if you had a home, I don't see anyone listening to music that loud. But certainly, you could. So it's very exciting stuff. You can get a 100-watt board, a 3116, for $5, $5, $5, $5 at this point. So it's almost like, why not? If you're into playing around with audio and you enjoy these little types of projects, even as a first project. But as you study these boards, there's a forum called DIY Audio. So as you study these boards and look, you can see there's quite a bit more information than what I'm giving you. And I do need to stress that if you're going to be using this stuff for a musical instrument, typically you're going to need some kind of a front end. Like for me, I use a Chord Pandora, and that has cabinet simulators, amp simulators, so I can get all those wonderful tones. This is merely serving as a power amp. And the EQ is just trimming off a little bit, like think of it as a hi-fi rig. Just trimming off a little bit for my preferred taste. I typically, like as I have this set here, that they're all at 1 o'clock. The bass is at noon. But I have played with that EQ. I have adjusted that EQ. And as the footage from the last time we went out and played, I had way too much treble. I had too much gain. I didn't sound good last time. Go ahead and check out my channel. I've got videos there of the family band playing live. All of the instruments you see when we're making music outdoors are these Class D amp boards. All of them are. And that's all stuff I put together. My daughter's guitar amp has a Roland Microcube front end. It's just coming line out of the Microcube because it's kind of underpowered. And then into a 25x2 amp board. It's all in one package with two of those guitar speakers. I forget what they're called. Jensen Mods. Yeah. Typically, I have found when using my modeler, the Chord Pandora, it almost prefers more hi-fi, like it's set up for headphones or a boombox. So I run horns in my setup. But so that's something to think about. You can get the amp board incredibly cheap. You can do well if you're a good scrounger to get the power supply incredibly cheap. You're talking about being able to scrounge up a 100-watt amplifier. Something like $10 for the amp board, even $5 if you get the cheap one. And let's say you got lucky and you got a power supply for, let's just say you got it for $3 at Goodwill, which I see them often. 19.5 volt, 3.5 amp. You would find something like that for $3. We're talking under $10 for a 100-watt amplifier. So it's absolutely incredible. And keep in mind, these are not peak China watts. These are not the fake. They really put out some amazing power. So it's a fantastic time to be working with this technology. The downfall being that, for a guitar, you're going to need some sort of a preamp, an effector to run through. Some kind of an amp sim, speaker sim helps. In my experience, it really does quite a bit. If you go straight in, you're just going to get kind of a clean, flat sound. I mean, a lot of people really love the Roland JC120 amplifier, which is a flat amp. If you have a bass that has active pickups, and you're looking to build yourself a little practice rig, or heck, anything like that, I would definitely consider Class D as an option, as the manufacturer called Orange Amplifiers actually had a Class D amp. I think it's still on the market. Two 12-inch speakers sitting behind each other in a small chassis. I think those Quilter tone blocks, I think that's Class D. There's a lot of Class D stuff. I don't want to say a lot, but there is Class D stuff going around the market. And as it is 93% efficient, and me being the type of person that doesn't necessarily hang my hat on tube technology, I think that anything can be made to sound reasonably good with a little bit of effort. And I certainly embrace all technology, at least give it a shot. So very exciting stuff, Class D amps. Let me know how much I failed you and how much you hate my channel down below. Thank you very much, and peace.